Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with the Kammermeyers. We're happy to have you with us today. We're thrilled to have our good friend Jill Thiel and join us because we're going to be talking about Reiki and chronic conditions or chronic illnesses or chronic pain, and how ongoing Reiki can help ongoing issues. So first I want to just take a couple of seconds and assuming you're not driving, close your eyes and take a deep breath. If you are driving, please don't do that. Take a deep breath and I'm going to just do a very short meditation, very short. So take a deep breath, hold it in for a count of 4, and then breathe out to the count of 6. One more, in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, 3, 4, and then out to 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doing that puts you into rest and restore rather than fight or flight. Obviously, I've already shifted into rest and restore. My brain stopped working. Anyway, so we learned that in our breathwork training, and it's amazing if you take a few deep breaths every day. If you can get up to 100, that, like, apparently they say your life will change. I haven't gotten there yet. So as you take that deep breath one last time, just the Reiki ideals. Just for today, I will not hold on to anger. Just for today, I will not hold on to worry. Just for today, I will be filled with gratitude. Just for today, I pulled a blank. I will be kind to every living creature. Thank you. Okay, so the way this works is anybody can, so you can mute yourself if you want. If you want to talk, just speak up, and we're going to start with, I'm just going to ask Jill some questions because I kind of know her story. So but if anybody would like to join or share or anything, that would be, we're happy to see you. So Jill, welcome. You want to tell us where you live and a little bit about yourself first?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? I changed it
to
put it on speaker so I could mute myself if I'm not talking. It sounds okay?
Yeah, it sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Jill Thiel. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am a licensed teacher for the International Center for Reiki Training. And so I know Chellie through the ICRT, through the International Center for Reiki Training, both Chellie and Mike. And that's basically where I'm at. I have a full-time Reiki practice in Minnesota, teach classes, have sessions, and then I also do sound healing with crystal singing bowls. I'm a foot reflexologist and a massage therapist. I enjoy like crystals and stones and animals and music and camping and traveling and that kind of stuff as well. That's basically who I am.
And you're a gardener.
Oh, yes, and I'm a gardener. I forgot to mention that because we're going into winter now, so I've been forgetting about that. But we actually have a winter greenhouse here in Minnesota, which we built, and so I am able to grow food all year round if I have the time to do it. And for many years, we did that. Now my Reiki practice is extremely busy, and the thing with gardening is that it is a hands-on, full-time sort of a work, and so we will probably do some winter gardening this year, but our whole yard is all a big garden, and we live in the city, and we over many years took out all of our grass and put in garden beds and grow a lot of our food, like tomatoes, and I haven't had to buy tomatoes in, I don't know, could be like 13 years, because I grow enough and then I can them and I have them all winter, and a lot of other various things like corn and beans. And so I grow a lot of food here, especially because it gets so cold in the winter, and it's something that is grounding for me. So I absolutely love gardening. Yes. Thank you, Chellie.
Yeah. She wrote an article in the Reiki News about it. That's one of, it was, anyway. So Jill, you mind sharing a little bit about like your health issues and how they've come about, and just sort of how Reiki has helped you with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole life, my stomach has kind of always been a weaker area for me, maybe empath, so you guys can relate to this, where, indigestion and, various different things. So that's always been an area for me that my intuition has worked through. But about 5 years ago now, I got really sick. And so what had happened is that a lot of times when I had the issues, they would kind of come on, but they were not really like a chronic thing. Like you would have issues, but then they would go away, and then you're like, okay, I'm fine, and you go back to your life. Well, I reached a point where the pain didn't go away, and what I had was like this really uncomfortable kind of tightness, I would say, like in the upper right quadrant of my abdomen. So where my liver would be, but also that area, there's a lot of organs. You've got your liver, your gallbladder, your colon goes through there, intestines go through there, your kidneys behind there, you've got muscles, and a lot of different areas in that solar plexus. Your pancreas comes through there. So it was really hard to figure out exactly what it was, because there wasn't just one thing. And I went in and I was getting testing with doctors, and like a lot of people who have autoimmune conditions, there's not a diagnosis. You spend a lot of money, and then they tell you that you're okay, but inside there's pain going on. I was also having like breaking out in hives. And was starting to have migraines, just a lot of discomfort. And so when I didn't get any information through Western medicine, I had been doing Reiki this whole time. I received what I would say the spiritual guidance of Reiki, which was just this inner knowing that Western medicine was not going to help me through this problem. And so I was guided to various different practitioners, acupuncture, biophoton therapy, naturopathic, herbs, just various different things through my journey. And then basically I got really, really sick. And when I mean really sick, I was bedridden and thought I was going to die at one point. Through the alternative healing work that I did, we were able to, through electrodermal skin testing, which is a type of, it's like a copper rod that you hold on to, and then they can check the dermal layer on your skin. That's one of your skin layers, and it can read and test for all sorts of different things like organ function, pathogens, viruses, metals, and this is a system that's been around. A lot of kinesiologists, chiropractors, acupuncturists use this sort of method of testing because it's highly effective. And so they can pinpoint, and then they can treat you where other traditional allopathic diagnosis isn't showing you what's going on. So through that, we were able to determine that I had Lyme's, I had Epstein-Barr, heavy metals, and so forth. So it became kind of like this super load of heavy metals, chemicals, and viruses that were affecting my body that had essentially kind of taken over. And I had to do several different things to kind of get this toxic load out of my body, which required a team of basically holistic practitioners, all using their expertise and kind of going at it in different ways. And so as I went through this, there was a point where I was bedridden, but then I slowly over time have come back. And now I am, you know, I would say I'm better. Recently, I've been working in some new avenues since I've got my strength back. I'm now exercising, running in particular, which is something that I was guided to do last February, which seems kind of like a joke at first, because I'm like, okay, you know, I'm thinking, how can I run? Like, I can't even barely walk. I mean, I could, but it just didn't seem realistic. And then sure enough, several months later, I did have the energy, and now I run 12 miles a week. And that moving, getting all that oxygen and that blood flow has really been beneficial to just like continuing my healing process. So I would say that I'm better. When you have these sort of autoimmune conditions, viruses, Lyme's disease, shingles was another one that I experienced. Those aren't things that just go away. They become dormant in your body. And so when you're in a state of being sick, they can flare up. So this isn't something that's like going to go away forever, but I've kicked it into dormancy enough that I have my life back. I can function, I can travel. I feel almost 100%, but I'm still just a little bit, I want to say maybe about 20% away from being where I feel that I have absolutely no symptoms anymore. The whole process though is taken about 4 years, and I'm on like my 5th year. So now in year 5, I'm running, which that tells me a lot on how far I've come, because I can exercise, which is a huge component. Along the journey, Reiki has just taught me so many different things, and trusting in it and the spiritual guidance and getting through that, and having a chronic illness and autoimmune conditions without any, you know, Western fix for it, all just looking internally and working and trusting and watching the progress. And it's been one of those things where I can't look at it on a day-to-day, but I can look at it from year to year, 6 months versus 6 months. And then, you know, and now I can look back, you know, going on this 5th year and saying, wow, okay, I've really come far on this. And it's amazing how far I've come and how much it's changed my life. And one of the biggest benefits that I've got is the ability to channel Reiki has gotten stronger. So as I've cleared out all of these things, my ability for my clients and so forth to feel Reiki has gotten stronger. And I've been receiving feedback now where people's ailments are being healed, and that's been really, really neat to see. So that's what I've been experiencing. Do you have any questions about that, Chellie?
Well, I do, because the one thing that I remember, actually, I don't think we had known each other very long when you made a comment that Reiki had guided you to all these different doctors and different So if you could talk a little bit more about how that, like, you know, like how you've been guided to each different, I mean, you don't have to tell about each specific doctor, but how Reiki has guided you to go to different, like, you know, acupuncture or, you know, different modalities, how it's helped with that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When I was at one of my doctor's appointments way back when, there was this feeling that I felt really uncomfortable, and maybe some of you have felt that, where you have that intuition and you're sitting in an appointment and you don't feel like maybe that person has your best interest at mind, and you start to feel, I don't think I'm in the right place, like your head starts to, like, out of nowhere give you information, like a download of some sort. And that's basically what happened to me. I was in an appointment and something felt really off with one of the providers that I was seeing, and they were advising that I move forward with testing. And as I was asking for other testing that they just hadn't done, just kind of basic testing stuff that hadn't happened at this time, and they were pushing like heavier, like CT scans and things like that, which I understand, but immediately I felt this big no, don't do that, you'll be misdiagnosed. And it was so strong that I just was like, you know what, yeah, I don't have to do this. So I didn't do that. And even though I know I was in excruciating pain, the thought about being treated for something like that could have been wrong, it just felt so overwhelming. And I actually heard that you'll be misdiagnosed and you could die, you know, that there was it could be that bad if you do that. They're going to see something that's not there, or I don't exactly know but it was the strong feeling of don't do it. So I didn't do that. And in return, I felt this overwhelming support of you're going to be fine. And I started just kind of getting this feeling of you need to go do acupuncture. And so that's really where I started. I started going to acupuncture. My acupuncturist was also, or is also an herbologist, and so in Chinese medicine, and had a good understanding of maybe some different things that we could do. And so we just took it week by week. I've had hundreds and hundreds of acupuncture appointments. I will say that the acupuncture didn't fix me, but it definitely helped me from getting worse. And it was something that I knew that worked. And kind of the thought behind acupuncture is that it helps to keep your body in like homeostasis. And so if you go out, like let's say you go out of balance and you're not in homeostasis anymore, your body, you can't just reverse it like that at times. And so acupuncture is really used, homeopathic medicine is used to keep you in balance, whereas allopathic, which is Western medicine, it treats the symptoms. And so you have a headache, you go in, you get the medicine, you get better. And that's how Western medicine is, an allopathic system. Homeopathic is where you're working to stay in balance. And so that's where acupuncture helps out, because it just, over time, if you keep going, it keeps you in that state of helping you to not go out of balance. So it provided a lot of relaxation, and it helped me from getting worse. But as I mentioned, it did take several years for me to get better. So through that process, as I would be working on stuff, other ideas, like working on my body, when I say other stuff, I would just have a feeling of another provider. Like I would just get a thought, oh, I need to see a naturopath, and then I would go and visit. And so then if I was working with that person, then I may not be taking the herbs from the acupuncturist anymore. I would just have my body would just tell me And either I would see something or know something, but is more or less like it wasn't a forced, like I'm looking for it. It just would come to me what the next step would be, or and then something would fall into place. So with a naturopath, for instance, I was thinking that I needed to find a naturopath. And then I put it out to Reiki, so I just kind of meditated and just said I would like to find this person and somebody that has electrodermal skin testing. Like I had an idea of what I wanted. And within a couple of days, I actually had a client show up that said, oh, I'm working with a naturopath. She's great. She does electrodermal skin testing. So I was like, oh, there's my person. So they would be brought to me. They would show up. It was all sort of a synchronicity. So it would be like a thought that would come in that could help me. And then something would show up in my path that would lead me to that next person. And so the team of people that I worked with, it wasn't like I just had one person. I found through healing, you need many people. Reiki is a huge component of that healing, but I found that everybody specializes in different things and all have played a part in my healing. And through that, I've also been able to develop like a network, a stronger network of people that I can refer clients to for their help. If they have certain issues, people that I trust, because I realize that I can't do it all. As much as I love Reiki, and I know that it does help and it heals, there are times when going to a chiropractor and getting an adjustment will benefit you. And I'm not a chiropractor, so I'm not going to work out of the scope of my practice, obviously, and do that. And so with acupuncture and so forth, what I found is that as I refer people out, people really appreciate that because you're helping them to get better, and that's what it's really about. And so healing isn't about one person or one thing. I found that in my journey, there have been many people that have played a part that I'm so grateful for the knowledge that they have and the take that they have on it, and how they've helped me. And as months and years and stuff have gone by, I've worked with different people on different things as different layers of stuff have been coming off, and then I need to try something else. Actually, sound healing is something that came in about 2 years ago as a way for self-care. So as a practitioner and a teacher, we're around a lot of energy, and though I don't take on other people's energy, it's still work, and you know, we need self-care. And I found having my sound healing bowls are a great way that I can just bombard myself with sound and frequency if I can't get in for a treatment. And so this whole journey has led me to people, to tools, new techniques, and it's all come through Reiki. And like Chellie said, that spiritual guidance of Reiki. And so just to kind of sum that up, it's just more or less like a knowing that isn't interfering with your ego, and there's no attachment to it. It's just a knowing, and it feels right and it feels good. And then you get the results that you need and you get better.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
exactly. And I think the main thing from your story that I want to impress on people is that you listened to your own guidance. And that's what that's what everybody should do. Is like, you know, maybe that person does need to see an allopathic doctor rather than a homeopathic doctor. Everybody needs to follow their own guidance. And so how you've managed to do it has been remarkable. And, you know, I think that, you know, lots of people can the takeaway is that learning to trust yourself and to trust that Reiki will guide you in that direction that you need to go. For instance, let's see here. Mike also had a chronic condition years ago when I first learned Reiki. And hi, Munakai, how are you?
Greeting, everyone.
Hey, Munakai.
What time is it there?
It is currently a little before 3:30 a.m.
Yeah, he's in Japan. So welcome.
Hi, Monica.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Jill, is that you?
Yeah, it's Jill.
Yes,
Hey,
that's
Jill.
me. Hi, I'm so glad to hear your voice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hello, everyone. My apologies. I just had a little cough and it woke me up. And so it's like, oh, it's time for the...
That's great.
Thanks for joining us. So
Yeah.
what we were talking about is that I wanted Mike to share a little bit about his back issues that he had. They were ongoing, and you know, you can share. I'll stop talking.
Can I talk now?
It's your turn.
Thank you. Anyway, some of you know the story, but back when Chellie first started learning Reiki 16, 17 years ago, or whatever it was, she took a Reiki class and she came home, and I had had 6 back surgeries. I was getting ready for a 7th one.
Wait, why did you have to have 6 back surgeries?
Well, because I worked on an oil rig in Prudhoe Bay and North Slope and fell and screwed up my back. Anyway, so after all the surgeries and that, I was getting ready for a 7th one again because I was having pains down the legs and everything. She learned Reiki, came home and said, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to heal you. That's what you said.
Yeah, I did say
And
that.
we know that's not the correct way, but anyway, she said she was going to heal me and put her hands on my back and do that. And I said, sure you are. You know, I was a little skeptical, I guess. Her hands were real hot. Short story, 3 weeks later, no more pains down my legs. And that was 16, 17 years ago. So I've had little flare-ups with my back here and there, but most of the time, Chellie does Reiki on it, or I do self-Reiki, and it just goes away. So did that make a believer out of me? I sure did. And it wasn't within a year, or February, I had shoulder surgery and a rotator cuff and that. And I was proceeding along, I don't know, maybe 8 weeks into it. I go to the physical therapist, to the normal stuff, and he says, what are you doing besides the exercises that the doctor says to do? And I said, well, I do Reiki on my shoulder. And he said, well, I'm not sure what that is. And I told him about it. And he said, you are way ahead of anybody in recovery where you are. He gives 20. He said, I have a 20-year-old that is not as good as you are. And I said, well, he said, do you contribute it to Reiki? And I said, yeah, I do. And it's fact. Anything else?
No, but I just think
that was short.
That I think it's important to, you know, that the important part of his story is that, you know, he had ongoing pain that he's had, you know, that over the years he's had to deal with off and on. And each time using Reiki has helped. Now, when he had his shoulder surgery, he had a severe injury. And so he needed to have surgery. There wasn't an option because it was torn. I mean, maybe if he had held it in one place and the doctor could have gotten it in the right spot, and he didn't move at all for, you know, 6 months or something, maybe it would have healed itself. But in his case, he needed that surgery. And so going for the surgery, what I think is important is that it helped him heal faster in recovery from it. So it's like to me, Reiki guide you to the people that you need to go to. The doctor that worked on him, you know, he was that did the surgery on him was a skier, and he was an outdoors kind of guy. So he knows the kind of movements and the kind of things that Mike would be doing. And so helping him recover from that was key.
Sure.
So does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add or share? Or you can unmute.
Yeah, that is, I'm back. It's me, Jill. Hi. That's, yeah, and I completely agree. You know, you're guided, and you just like, you get that feeling like, yep, this feels right, or this is going to help, or, you know, maybe I should try something else, depending on realistically what makes the most sense for you. I think the key is not like jumping around. Sometimes there is that silver bullet, go get the surgery, and then now you're healing. And other times, like in my situation, that wasn't going to work, because having those autoimmune conditions means they don't have an actual, they can't give me a diagnosis. They can just say, yep, you're one of these people. And so alternative therapy at that point was what I needed to do, but then was guided in the best way. And I did find that in those longer journeys, it was important to stay focused and on track. And it, like, if I didn't get the results fast enough, that's where I had to look back and say, well, look at where you've come in 6 months, look at where you've come in a year. Because some things that I see are people who don't quite trust what they're doing, and they're jumping around constantly.
Right.
And so they don't follow through with a plan. And so just know that sometimes there is that a surgery or going into the doctor is, you know, what you need to do. Like when we look at the Hayashi Healing Guide, and it talks about being cut by sword or rabies, things like this, you probably are going to go into the doctor now and get fixed for. But there are other various things where, you know, they don't always have all the answers. And so you do the best that you can. And in those situations, sometimes you do have to be patient, and you have to continue on that path. And it might not be easy, and it might take a while, but at the end of it, it will, you know, you will heal. It will happen for you.
Yeah. Monica, did you have a question? Or
no, just wanted to share that. Just wanted to share that I have had asthma, and I would frequently get bronchitis a lot, especially in the winter time. And when I started to do Reiki in 2016, you know, it healed up the emotional issues for me first, as it went and healed my emotional issues. And so I don't get bronchitis as much as I used to. Still, I get it once in a while, but excuse me. First line of defense for me, of course, is doing my daily self Reiki, which, you know, is good maintenance. And then, of course, I use just the Reiki, try to use Reiki frequently on myself and on my lungs and everything. And I don't get, you know, I just don't get sick as often. Pardon my voice right now. But, so yeah.
It's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
thank you. Yeah, no, I agree that self Reiki is kind of the key.
Me too, I agree.
Anybody else have any comments or notice anything in their life or?
Quiet group.
Wow, everybody's quiet. You not know how to unmute yourself?
Raise your hand.
I'm just smiling in the background. I don't have anything to say, but
Loving it.
Thanks, Julie. Well, you know, I think that you know, this whole idea started because one of the participants that's actually not on the call today was dealing with some serious health issues, and she has shared with me privately that Reiki has helped her with pain management while she's going through some physical issues. And you know, the thing is it's not always, you know, like as much as we live in an instant society, you know, how you can pick up the phone and call somebody across the world, or you can see them across the world, you know, sometimes healing is, it's a process. And, you know, we don't know what that process, I mean, we don't know why the process takes what it takes, but it, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of allowing yourself to rest. Like, you know, sometimes we just, like, I used to joke that every year in January, I got bronchitis and a cold, because I would go like crazy through November and December, and then I would get sick in January because I never took time to relax and I think, you know, it's been years since that's happened. It's not, and I don't think that I have any magic potion or anything, but I think that a lot of what I've done is, you know, Reiki has actually helped me slow down and appreciate every day. So I think that's important to remember too. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry we're speaking so much so quickly, but it's interesting that we're talking about autoimmune and chronic conditions, because Friday, well, it's Saturday morning for me, and Friday morning I spent all day at the hospital with a coworker of mine who has Crohn's disease, and I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but he you know, he was just basically getting a refill for his medicine. So we had to go through this whole process, and I sat next to him, and I don't know if it was a instinctive thing, but I just asked him, like, I literally turned to him and I just said, you know, do you like do things like chiropractic or anything like that? And he said no, that, you know, he's done blue collar work all of his life, crane operating and doing all those kind of things. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, he doesn't like massages and things like that. And I said, you know, your body is screaming for relief and release. And I don't know why I even said that, but just like between his Crohn's disease, and I looked at him and I just felt like his back, I mean, he needed a massage and chiropractic and everything. And I felt so sorry for him because I could feel his body screaming. Just, he's 31 and he felt like, I don't know how to describe it, he felt older inside than his actual age. And so I thought about at that moment, like how we who do these practices do these things to take care of ourselves with love. And I think that that's a missing component, that people really do not understand what it means to give love to themselves in a healthy way. And like doing your Reiki or just doing yoga or massages, and even just taking an assessment, even just telling your body, I appreciate you for all the things that you do for me. Like actually visibly, like vocalizing those words. My dear body, I appreciate you, and I apologize for anything times I neglected you, and I do love you. That actually has an effect on the body that many of us, because of the Western way of our living, we just don't appreciate, don't recognize, or it sounds kind of hokey and so I've been trying to do my best to like talk to my body like I'm talking to someone I love, and I love you and care for you and thank you so much. And part of that is giving that. I think that when we do self Reiki, it's a way of giving like flowers to yourself and giving love to yourself.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, I agree.
What were you going to say?
It is important. That self-love component, to build on that, was something that actually did come up for me. As I mentioned earlier, running was something that came through. I had developed a frozen shoulder in this last year. It was like, I think as stuff was coming out and repetitive stress and various things. And also I realized that when I was sick, I had to lay on only one side of my body for a few years. And so that caused it, along with doing cartwheels, which we all laugh about, doing some cartwheels. I think that was the big final blow.
I think that's been the final straw, but you know.
I saw it.
Was
one-armed.
You saw it. Yeah, you saw it. And anyways, I had a lot of repetitive stress, and it created this frozen shoulder. And, you know, now that is, I would say it's 90% healed. So I have almost full range back. Just there's a few little things that are still releasing. But going back to what Munakai was saying, the self-love was a big thing of emotions that started coming out. And so one of the things that Reiki guided me to when I was strong enough was exercise. And exercise became a way that I could meditate as like things could surface, but it became a way that I could use movement to process out negative emotion. And then also bring in, as that emotion and stuff went away, I could also be more creative. I was like writing articles. Like this that I'm just talking about right now is an article that I'm actually about to submit in the next couple of days about this particular experience of Reiki with exercise. And so that self-love component became a huge part of my healing. And that's one of the components of Holy Fire Reiki is self-love and feeling loved in a deeper sort of love. And inside, those negative emotions were buried in there, even though on the surface, I thought that I felt loved and so forth. But underneath it all, there was something in there that needed to heal. And that came out through this process. And it was connected to these autoimmune conditions, just like Munakai had said.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing I think is that, you know, we are, okay, this is going to be so, you know, I talk about Dr. Emoto at our Reiki classes, how he was, you know, he would put different words on the outside of water, and then it would change the cellular structure of the water. Well, we're like, what, 75% water? So if it affects water in a, you know, a beaker that in a science lab, it's going to affect us too. And so what we say to each other or say to ourselves, you know, the things that you say to yourself, you would probably never say to, you know, a stranger, or, you know, let alone like your best friend. But, you know, we say, oh, I'm stupid, or, oh, I'm dumb, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it tends to, it just, you know, by learning to do self-Reiki, it allows you to love yourself and that loving yourself, you know, creates healing, because we are so much water. I think there's like this whole domino effect. So, does anybody have any questions or thoughts they want to share? What?
Hello.
Nobody?
Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric.
Hi. I just been hanging out. Thank you. This is good. I came on the call just yesterday. Actually, I was with a group of colleagues and a partner of one of them who couldn't come because she was home with terrible back pain, couldn't get up, couldn't move, and so pain, chronic issues. So I thought, well, maybe I'll pick up some wisdom here or something. But it's kind of interesting. Your last reflections are good, I think, about what we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
This is a young woman. She's in her late 20s, early 30s. And it's like, oh my God. And I just don't, I'm always amazed. It's like, anyway, different bodies do different things. And there she is.
Right. And and it's interesting to me, like how somebody will, like 3 people will walk down a sidewalk and one of them will trip over something and screw up their back. Like, why are they the person that happened to?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has to do with where we are emotionally, spiritually, physically, and how we heal from that is, just taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm not talked to this woman about her back or anything. I just found out about it and she wasn't there. She was homesick or home in bed. So I'm just curious, okay, how might I begin some conversation or something? Yeah.
Yeah. And, and then there's the whole, as a Reiki practitioner, there's the whole, a lot of people follow like Louise Hay's little book about, if this is what's wrong with you, this is why you have that, this emotion caused it. But I find that almost, I guess maybe dangerous is too strong a word, but that's the best word that like saying to somebody, oh, you have a lower back problem because you're worried about the, money is not really that helpful for people, because all that does is then make them worry more about it or think more about it. So I tend to, if I do use, look up those kind of things, which I've kind of stopped doing, but at the beginning I used it a lot. I would, I just skip the why, or I skip the thing and I'll go on to the affirmation. Like, do you tell yourself you feel safe and supported and loved? Well, maybe you should write that on the mirror and say it every morning. Every time you go in the bathroom, right? I am loved, I am supported, I am whatever thing that it is the last step. I skip kind of the middle step.
Yeah.
But
I've been,
it's hard to know why individuals have something. And if you're just reading a book, well, it might be helpful, but it may not be the right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she could have something that maybe, like Mike's shoulder where, hanging on by a thread, there might be something there. So that needs to be addressed, but it may be something that could be, I think everything does stem from that emotional self or whatever, but there are times where, you can't just say, well, this is some sort of a spiritual thing that's going on to you. Sometimes it's not that. It might be something you need to see a doctor for.
Yeah.
And so you can't just tell people that, not to do anything about it.
Right.
Go meditate and work on your self-care. I mean, you need to be doing that. And that's where the homeopathic comes in, is the homeopathic way. If you're doing that the whole time, that helps keep you in the state of balance. And that's what all of those things do. They keep you in the state. So you're letting go, you're clearing, you're integrating all of these sorts of techniques so you don't go out of balance. And that's what that is all about. something that I've been doing to kind of build on what you were saying, Chellie, is that in living in that place of gratitude, so not just saying things like, I am healthy and so forth, also like in a gratitude way, envisioning, so down the line. So for instance, like if something did create fear, let's say it was money, let's say you were worried about money and that was causing the back issue, then coming from a place of, in the future, I am so happy that I have so much abundance and I am so grateful for it. So like living and visualizing being in that place of gratitude instead of living in a place of not. With everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Eric, did you get any, well, I mean, did you send this person Reiki then?
I did, actually. Yeah. And so I'll be curious to have a follow-up conversation, if anything. And I haven't put her name yet on our group distance Reiki thing. I was going to do that as well.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you using a grid in that, Reiki, Eric?
I haven't been using the grid.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should try that.
Okay.
Everything helps with Reiki. I mean, Reiki's our drug, right?
There you go.
Well,
good idea. Thank you. Yeah, good suggestion.
Everything does help with Reiki, Mike. I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
I have a question that probably puts us in a different path.
Okay.
Smudging. I'm not really familiar with smudging, but I was just wondering who out there has experience with smudging, and did it help, your self healing?
Well, probably the most dramatic situation that we had sure we clear and stuff here all the time, but when my mom's house was, after my mom died, we eventually sold it, her house, and we had it on the market. And so we had it on the market and we put new carpet in it. And then just as we were getting ready to actually list it, we'd shown the realtor and we figured out what we were doing and all this stuff. I gathered my son, who is an engineer and thought this was hokey, and my granddaughter, who is like a little mini me, and Mike and I went over to my mom's house and we used sage, we used drums, we used a bell, 2 drums, a bell, and the sage. And we went through every corner of that house and we cleared, we drummed, the bell is a different frequency, so we used the bell. Sophia told her grandfather he was out of beat with the drum, which was quite fun to watch that. And then when we got done, we stood in the family room and held hands and said, we'd like to thank the spirit of the land and the spirit of the house. And we want you to know that we appreciate all that you've given us and all the time that we've had here and the fun and joy. And we want to let you know that we want to release anything that no longer needs to be here any longer. And we want to tell you that we will we're asking for a family to come in to bring in new life and new joy and new happiness into this home, because the last few years, my mom wasn't well. And so we wanted it to be different. And about that time, the front, well, some door, I'm not sure which door it was, but 2 doors slammed, just like boom, boom. And Adam's eyes got this big around, you know, he was like, what is happening here? And you know, we listed the house, and within a week, I mean, I really believe that my parents left the house when those doors slammed. It was like they were letting us know that they were going wherever else they were going. And and within a week, the house sold to somebody that had small children. You know, we've driven by and it looks amazing. They've got a swing set up in the backyard and new windows and a new roof, and you know, just the place just looks happier. So you know, that was probably the most dramatic smudging event that I've ever done. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Do you do smudging?
No, I just happened to be reading an article and it mentioned smudging, and I thought, maybe I will look into this.
I will say that I personally prefer Palo Santo over sage.
Okay.
But that's maybe more me than other people. I don't know.
It's not as smoky.
It's not, yeah, it's not as smoky, and it's got a nicer, yeah, it's got a nicer smell. To me, it's a nicer smell, so you might want to investigate it.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
I use the Palo Santo too. I use the sage like for a big house clearing. And then I use the Palo Santo like on a daily basis with clients, people, and so forth. And I'm with you on that, Chellie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, every now and then I'll go through our house. I use a pendulum and I go through our house and say, you know, is there anybody that's, is there any information still here that doesn't, I mean, anything that is not, you know, doesn't belong here, like, and then I'll go through and clear. I'll use, when it's that, I do use the sage, and I just, you know, wave it around, and I've got a feather, and I just sort of get it into all the corners. And
question, logistical question, using sage or the other for smudging indoors, how do you avoid smoke alarms going off? That's been my problem.
Good question.
I have to take the batteries off of everything before I can. Seriously,
You know,
I mean, that's all I do.
Less smoke. Palo Santo, I think.
Yeah, there's less smoke with the Palo Santo.
Okay.
Or take the smoke detectors down. One or the other.
Or open all the windows,
Yeah.
because you want things to have an exit release anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
Outside's one thing, but inside has been a challenge.
Yeah, and you know what? When we do classes, if you know, like the drumming class, we always do, you know, clearing on people. We do go outside because in our class, in our building, it has the same healing system or heating system as the rest of the building. So in the intake of air goes through the entire building, and there's contractors and you know, other people that are there, and they're not very appreciative of this smell of sage. So we try to be respectful of that too.
Well, it's 11:01.
So it's been an hour. So does anybody have any final questions or anything?
Can it be a question that's Reiki related, but not on the
Yes,
chronic?
absolutely.
Gotta go.
Okay. Just throwing it out there for everyone. When you were in the beginning, or even now, if you're an experienced practitioner, how do you deal with people who all, like, lately we've been getting, Len and myself have been getting a lot of people who are contacting us because they're interested in coming. They're coming to Japan to take our classes, and they want to sign up and everything. And okay, fine. And now they're like just dropping off, and like they're flaking out. And it's like, And so we're seeing a pattern here. It's like suddenly a lot of interest, like, and then suddenly everyone is suddenly just canceling on us. Now now these are the people who they haven't even filled out any application. They haven't even sent in a deposit. So Lena and I are not getting our hopes up or anything. It's just like, okay, let's talk and let's see what can happen, because we got little individual families that are traveling. And so I wanted to know, like, how do you deal, I told Lena that I think we need to do some journeying around, like, taking an assessment of, is there any, like, energies or anything that we need to observe, learn, or release, and what we need to bring in, because it's happening a lot. Just a lot of these, like, hey, we're coming to Japan, we want to study with you. Oh, never mind. I'm so sorry for bothering you. It's like, it's just happening very frequently. So, like, has anyone ever had that happen? And how did you deal with it?
That is a great question. I'm going to give you my perspective, and then Mike can give you his, or anybody else. When we first started teaching Reiki, that seemed to happen a lot. And I think there was a couple of things. One was that I truly, like, I think there's people that are reaching out because they're interested, but they aren't ready to commit yet, even though they say they are. And so what I found was I just answer people's questions and then I let it go. Like, I used to send those people follow-up emails and that kind of stuff. Now I'm like, they're grown-ups. They can take the class if they want. This is when my classes are scheduled. And if you want to take a class, you take the class. And, you know, I let go of my attachment to that. Like, I want people to learn Reiki because I want them to have Reiki. But I might not be the right teacher for them. It might not be the right situation for them. So I've just learned to just kind of let go of it. Like, I used to follow up with people like, oh, I see you didn't sign up for the class. Are you ready to sign up? Or, you know, that kind of stuff. Now I don't do that any longer.
I think we had a class, for instance, in Alaska, in the mountains and that. And we had lots of people saying they wanted to do it. And then, like what happened to you guys, they just fell off. They didn't say, well, we changed it. I think what happens is it's called money. Not necessarily because of the class is too expensive. It's because of everything they have to do to get there and what they're going to spend when they're on vacation or whatever they're doing. You know, it gets pretty expensive. So I think a lot of times if people are interested in it, it sounds romantic enough, if you want to call it that, to do the class. But what happens when reality checks over, you know, it's usually the money issue, I think. So, you know, I don't think it has anything to do with you or Reiki. I think it's just a matter of, you know, reality. I mean, we all want to go someplace until you realize how expensive it is and say, do we really want to do that? You know, so, I mean, that would be my guess.
And
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. I was just going to say that I agree, you know, with Chellie and Mike. One of the techniques that I've done when I've been in that situation is I like to use the Reiki moving meditation and the grid. And so within that, what I do is I put out the affirmation that I'm open to receiving the clients that I can help, the clients and students that need me, the clients and students that I can help. And so when I do that Reiki moving meditation, which you learn in masterclass, so if some of you may know what I'm talking about, some of you may not, the Reiki Master Symbol practitioner allows you to use movement. That's something that I've been using to help heal my body as I've been running in this new phase. But I also use that moving meditation to charge affirmations that I would like to do. So when you do that, and then as you're doing affirmations, I sometimes add in other affirmations that aren't in the book that talk about, that I make up my own, basically stuff that I want to empower. And then I infuse that with Reiki through the moving meditation. And then I put that into my grid to send more Reiki to that. And then I start to visualize that outcome that I want to achieve.
And the grid. The grid is important. Like, we have a student grid. We have a grid specifically set up for students and our classes in, well, it happens to be, and it's in the, I know enough about feng shui to be a little bit, like kind of have a little bit of, and I happen to know that where the knowledge corner is in our home. So that's where I set up the grid for students. So that's also a good thing.
Thank you. Those answers are, they're resonating very well with me. Thank you very much.
And just know that that Reiki and the universe are going to send you the right people. And the circle is always divinely ordered. Colleen Benelli, right?
Yes, we've been hearing that. That is exactly what we have been using to keep our spirits up. It's like, you know what? Circle is always divinely ordered, and we're letting go of the attachments, but still with a lot of things happening. We're just kind of like, oh, that would have been nice. But, so we're trying to let go of the attachments and everything. So I wanted to bring that, ask that of people. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, you just got to stay consistent. Just keep your advertising, keep asking, and let Reiki help you. It'll work.
Thank you.
And also know that it takes time to develop all of that. I mean, unless it doesn't, but it does. It's taken us time. To develop having classes that are fuller and, we didn't start out one day and then the next year have full classes. So it takes time.
Me either. Same as you guys. It's taken time for me.
And one of William's, things that he teaches is consistent focus over time develops results. So, the time. So anyway,
okay.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It was nice to see you and hear from you. And this will be a recording that'll, I'll send out the link for that. And Tiffany's going to help me figure out how to get it onto iTunes or YouTube, I guess. YouTube. I don't know. And then we'll just follow up. Next month, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Probably
something.
I know. Maybe part of it will be how to use Reiki to help you get through the holidays. That'll be a good thing, because sometimes it's a little thanks, Cheryl. I see that you sent me a message and I don't know how to respond. So anyway, thank you everybody. We're gonna go, and if anybody has any questions of us, you can always reach out. So we have an email, innercompassreiki@gmail.com. or our website has a, where you can go on and send us a message, and that is innercompassreiki.com. So
Yeah. Thanks everybody for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank
It
you
was
for
a lot of
joining.
fun.
You.
Be with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Everyone.
Go back to bed, Munike.
Oh, believe me, I will. Got to get up soon. Got to go to do the work. Got to go to work. So I'll be getting a few hours.
I'm sure your wife has her pillow over her head right now, right?
She's actually down in the southern part of Japan about to do a Reiki talk, actually.
Oh, there you
for
go.
her.
So, yeah. So,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Take care of yourself, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.